the number one competitive advantage for companies, schools, teams that are successful is not how smart they are, it's how healthy they are.
Hi, everybody. I'm Liz Zweigle. I'm COO at Truth Tree. We are a digital marketing firm that works exclusively with private schools. So think Google ads, social media ads, search engine optimization, all the things. I'm a former marketing and admissions director in the DC area, which is how I met our featured speaker today, which we will get into shortly, introducing Miriam. And at Truth Tree, we work with schools all over the world, mostly in the US, but we see it all, we've tried it all, we've done it all, we've read it all. And this is hiring season. And I was really excited to bring Miriam on to speak with us and to this group and to this audience to really think about what hiring season looks like in private schools. We have done some work here independently at Truth Tree with Miriam on some working genius exercises and learning a little bit more about how we individually operate, what are our genius levels, where do we shine, where do we struggle. And I thought, gosh, this would be incredible to kind of use this in the private school hiring space as well. And so I'm really excited to bring her on today as our guest speaker to talk a little bit about what working genius looks like, how could this be applied in your own hiring season. We've applied it actually here at Truth Tree in our hiring process, so I'm excited to share more of that. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Miriam.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Liz. It is so fun to be here with the Truth Tree crowd, and I see some familiar faces here. So if I've met you already, I'm so happy to see you. And those of you I haven't met yet, it's really a pleasure to be here with you. I am a school professional. I know how busy you are. I know how insane it is. And I appreciate your taking time out of your day today. My goal is to make this really worth your time. And I think you will find it interesting and worthwhile because, as Liz said, this is something that I brought to their team. And it is like immediately applicable. You will start to see it everywhere. It will start to help you understand how you work, and hopefully will also start to help you understand like how to hire for the right fit and not just like post and pray that the right person comes along. So we're going to talk about this neat model today. Just before we begin, I want to begin with gratitude and thank Liz and Missy for a lot of behind the scenes work to make this possible, back and forth communication, creating the blurb, creating the infrastructure to help you sign up. So thank you. It's really a pleasure to work with you. You're so professional and polished and fun. And to everyone here, I am Miriam Stein. I've got a slide deck for you today to show you some things, but I really want you to imagine that we are all having like our afternoon coffee or lunch or breakfast together, or maybe dinner if you're over on the other side of the Atlantic. But please take yourself off mute, ask questions, get involved. I really want this to be your content by the time that we're done. So like, do not be shy, jump in. I'm a school person. I did admission. I live in the Washington, D.C. area, and I was an admission director for a school that's pre-K through 12th grade of about 1,000 students. I was the upper school admission director, very high stakes, very intense, a lot of pressure and a lot of fun. And then about 4 years ago, I opened a consulting practice to help schools with enrollment strategy. As I started working with schools, I realized real quick, oh my gosh, schools really also struggle with teamwork and communication and collaboration challenges. So I work with schools on their internal teams. That's what I love to do. And a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is rooted in this field of organizational health. So some of you, these are like my workplace Bibles. Some of you, who has this book on their shelf, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team? Yes. Now I want you to keep your hand up if you've actually read it. Have you read it?
I did read it.
Good job, everybody. Okay. This is your first takeaway for today. If you haven't yet read this book, I highly recommend it, or anything by this author. He has a bunch of books out there. His name is Patrick Lencioni. And this book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, or this book, The Advantage, are really his core texts. And they talk about how to have healthy teams. And he also wrote this book called The 6 Types of Working Genius, which is what we're going to be talking about today. But he has this idea, which is that there's different kinds of companies. I think now I'm able to share my screen. Let's see. I can. All right. Check this out. All right, here we go. I'm going to show you all this because maybe you'll get the deck afterwards when we're done. But hiring for the right fit. That's me. I always include a picture of myself so that you can say like, oh yeah, who was that person who talked to us? So that's me. This is what we're going to be talking about today. And now here's my first bit of content. There's different types of teams, okay? There's different types of companies. Number one is some companies are smart. Companies that are smart have like the Harvard MBAs in the room. They've got the best practices in strategy and marketing and the spreadsheets, and they've got the highest level of Blackbaud, whatever. Like they are the top of the game in terms of like on the surface, what looks like should be in place. But what you say, I'll save you from reading the advantage. Well, you should still read it. But the number one competitive advantage for companies, schools, teams that are successful is not how smart they are, it's how healthy they are. So smart IQ is important, but having a healthy work environment is going to be a better indicator for success at hiring, retaining kids at your school. So what does a healthy team look like? There's clarity, there's minimal confusion, there's clarity around how decisions are made. There's minimal drama, there's low turnover, people want to stay there, okay? We want to get to teams that are healthy. How do we get to teams that are healthy? This is the 5 dysfunctions, okay? In a real 30-second bit, there are these 5 essential functions of a healthy team. And those functions are, if you put them in place, you have a better chance than anyone of having a really solid team. At the base is trust. Trust means being able to be honest and open and vulnerable about what you do well and what you don't do well. And if you can do that, then the prize for that is having honest and open conversations and being efficient and not having people talk around each other and not having the gossip that chips away at workplace happiness and productivity. If you can have trust, then you can engage in conflict, which in a productive way, which means the prize for that is you're getting better quality decisions. You have fewer mess ups down the line. You can commit to those decisions. That's level 3. Committing to those high quality decisions means you stay focused. You keep moving forward. You don't have creep. You're not like, wait, why are we back here again? That enables you to hold each other accountable. If everybody's bought into the decision and you see somebody not doing that, then you can comfortably say, hey, we all agreed to this. And then you're able to focus on results and achieve your goals. So those are the 5 essential functions of a healthy team. It starts with trust. How do you get trust on a team? How are you able to be honest and open about what you do well, what you don't do well? It's very awkward to say oh, I'm really good at this, but I'm not good at this. Ding. Enter stage left, the working genius model, which is this really neat model that's developed by this same team of professionals, Patrick Lencioni. His company is called the Table Group. They say the most essential things happen when people come together at a table. Their company is called the Table Group. They work in the corporate world. They do some work with churches and nonprofits. My dream is to bring all of their brilliance to the school world. So that's what I'm going to try to do with you today. So they've developed this model called the Working Genius Model that helps us build trust. Here's what the Working Genius Model is. I'm going to describe it to you, and then we're going to get into making it real and practical for you. The Working Genius Model says there are 6 different ways in which people approach work, approach tasks, and each of us has 2 of those that are our God-given talents. It's very effortless for us to do this, and those are called your working geniuses. And you say, I can't believe I get paid to do that. That's like a dream situation. Everyone has 2 of them that are called working frustrations. And those are things that I want to be clear. If you're on this call, you're probably a very successful professional and you're probably good at all of these things. Nobody is saying you're not good at them, you're not capable, nobody's trying to put you in a box.
Good, man.
What we are saying is there are some things that you get excited about doing. They give you joy and energy. And there are some things that you really when you're looking at your to-do list, you just kind of glaze over them and don't do them, right? Or at the end of the day, I'm I didn't even see that in my to-do list. Those are things that are in your area of frustration. I'm going to describe them to you, and then we'll talk about how they show up and how they can be really helpful when thinking about hiring. So it starts with wonder. People with wonder love to ponder. They love to ask big picture questions. They say, why? Why is it this way? What would be if? What would it be if we started a school here? People love to question. That's wonder. Then there are some people who love to respond to that question with ideas. How about this? How about this? Let's try this. Those are people with invention. They give them a free afternoon and they're going to come up with like top 5 best movie endings, top 5 best commercials. They're just always thinking of ideas. Those are your people with invention. Then there are some people who have discernment. They love to refine ideas. They can ask a lot of questions. They poke holes in ideas, or like, let me make sure I understand. That's the kid who says, do we have homework tonight? The kid who is always asking questions. Those are people with discernment. Then there are people who have galvanizing. They're your cheerleaders. They're not necessarily interested in brainstorming or, refining ideas, but like give them an idea and they're all in to get other people excited. Then there are people with enablement or encouragement. Like enablement here is a good thing. Like they are your helpers. They say, let me know what I could do to help. And then there are people who have tenacity, who love to finish things. They love to make lists, create systems, cross things off. It like really gives them joy and energy to be detail oriented and get things done. Sorry, I should have said as I was going. As I mentioned each of these, we could go through them again. I want you to write down who you think on your team has each of these or like represents one of them. And also you can write yourself down. So again, wonder, I want you to write down a W. And people who love to ask big picture questions. Why is it like this? What might it be like if? Like think about it. Who on your team possesses that characteristic? And people with invention love to come up with ideas. They're saying, I got it. How about this? Have you tried this? Let's try this. Think about who's that person, either on your team or even at the school. I just want this to start to become a little concrete for you. Then think about discernment, people who ask a lot of clarifying questions, or if you gave them a list of, they don't get overwhelmed by many choices. Like if you gave them a list of 100 restaurants, they'd be able to pick out the top 3 that serve our needs immediately. Or just like, hey, they're very incisive. Those are people with discernment. They recognize patterns. Those are people with discernment. Who on your team has galvanizing? Who is the cheerleader who just like gets energized by getting other people energized? You've all met me and I have galvanizing.
I wonder.
Yeah, that's me. I have galvanizing and I have enablement, which you don't know yet about me. Galvanizing is a pretty obvious one. Enablement are people who say, let me know what I could do to help. Oftentimes, the support person at school, like the executive assistant, has enablement and tenacity. They're good at saying, let me know what I could do to help, and I'm going to get this done. So I want you to write down who has enablement and who has tenacity. Okay. In addition to that, I'll just spend 1 minute on this slide, but each project, in addition to people having geniuses or frustrations, every project should kind of flow through this process. So if you're planning your marketing strategy for next year, if you're planning a gala, if you're planning a capital campaign, whatever it is, if you're planning to hire, big picture questions like, what do we need for this role? Like, what might be a good fit? Then coming up with ideas around it. Like the ideation is the planning, the thinking. The implementation is making it happen. You're going to do that anyway. That's at the end. The middle is activating that idea. So discerning and galvanizing that idea. Let's say you've got a job description. Let's say you've thought creatively about it. And you're going to hire somebody in the end. They're going to have a start date. But in the middle of that, you want to make sure that you say, hey, let's think of all the avenues where we could promote this. Let's make sure people are excited about this job. I want to alert the rest of the staff that we're creating this new position. If you go just from the idea of creating the job to making the job happen, but you don't think in the middle about what needs to be true to make this successful, you'll be missing a step.
I think another example for enablement with your template there, Miriam, is like enablement, like for the people that want to help you hire, like how can they help? Can they post the job description? Can they talk to their friends? Like giving them some role in that too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's great. I don't know how many of you are like admission or marketing professionals, but when parents say like, let me know what I could do to help. I say all the time to people, like, not all parent ambassadors are created equal. Not all staff are created equal also. Different people have different things that they're going to be excited about and do a great job at. So think about like what's likely, when people say, let me know what I could do to help, ideally you could say to them like, what are your areas of, like that's a great example of like helping to share the job description. Absolutely. I want you to start to think about also like I'm going to show you in a second is a team map. Well, actually, I'm going to come back to this. I don't usually go in this order, but I'm going to come back to that altitude slide. And if I forget, I want somebody to say, hey, Miriam, go back to the altitude slide. I want to show you what this model looks like and what it looks like with your team, which is going to be more particular to hiring. And then I'll show you one of the ways in which it shows up. I also want to be really clear. I am not selling this Working Genius model. I don't make any money if you buy the Working Genius model. I'm not selling you this product. I'm showing you, I learned about this in my research of helping teams and I fell in love with it so much. I like drink the Kool-Aid every day. They have a podcast on it. You can access all of this. I'm not like a vendor for this. I am a certified facilitator. Like I fell in love with it so much. I got certified in their model. So like I can teach it and do it, but I want to be really clear. This is not a sales pitch. It's only a sales pitch for you to like get better at what you do, but like, don't hire me. I mean, you can hire me if you want to, but that's not my goal. Okay. This is what you do in order to access this tool. You would go to workinggenius.com and you take an assessment. The assessment takes about 10 to 15 minutes to do. And then you get back a report that says, these are your areas of genius and frustration. And also in the middle is competency, which is like, you're pretty good at it. People think you're good at it, but if you did it all the time, it would be, it's an in-between thing. It would be very draining for you if you did it all the time. What I like about this model is that it is immediately accessible. It's very clear. It uses real English. Like, for example, I am an ENTJ in Myers-Briggs. Like, I don't even know what that means. I know the E is an extrovert. Okay. But like, I'm a 2 in the Enneagram. I'm a purple.
Yeah.
Here, if I said to you, I have galvanizing, like, or if you said this person has discernment and that's why they approach it in this way, then it's, then you start to use real English around it. And that's the value of this, by the way, is having the shared language around how people approach it. That's my dog, Ruby. She's excited about this. Shh. Stop. Excuse me. Let me let her out. Come here.
I'll also show that I keep my team map. So we did this work with Miriam as well at Truth Tree. So I have our team map by my desk because it is a helpful tool to kind of just see, whose geniuses are what and kind of where we can lean into them as well. So I keep this handy, I'll say. And Miriam, you're muted.
I'm very sorry about that. I beg your forgiveness. The beauty of it, thanks Liz for sharing that. So when you start to recognize how different people approach work and what people will love to do or what's hard for them to do, then you start to have a really keen insight into what kind of work should I assign them? Or why do they always have a headache in this kind of meeting? Or how do we as a team keep hitting the same obstacle? We come up with great ideas, but our execution really stinks. Or we generate a lot, we're really good at executing, but we've been doing the same thing for 5 years and we can't come up with new ideas. When everyone on your team takes the assessment, then you map it out. And this is a real team that I worked with. And we did this. This is not Liz's team, although there's somebody named Liz on this. But this is a team. Okay, if you saw this, what do you notice with this? Anybody jump in if you can unmute. Don't be shy.
No one under wonder.
No one under wonder. Nobody has the genius of wonder.
Big questions.
Yeah. Nobody has the genius of invention.
There's one galvanizer.
There's one galvanizer. Yes, thank you. Oh, hi, Ariel. And that's Jessica. She's the one who hired me. Not only is she the only galvanizer, but everyone else on the team gets really frustrated by her enthusiasm and galvanizing. So she hires me to go ahead.
This team needs a visionary.
This team needs a visionary. So Liz F is the leader of this team. And I showed her this team map before we did the workshop with her group. before I did the training with them. And I said, I want to show you this. And she said, what do you mean we don't have wonder and invention? Our team, we develop professional development for people nationwide. That's what we do. And I said, and she's like a very high powered person. And I said, well, Liz, tell me about those meetings when you have to create your strategy for the year. Like, is that when you're at your best? And she's like, actually, no, like that. We're not at our best. We're really critical of each other. It's hard for us to come up with new ideas. So does that mean that they don't have to come up with new ideas? No, absolutely not. We have to do all these things. But if you walk in eyes wide open to know where you're going to struggle, if you have your team map, you can forecast. This is going to be a challenge for us. What do we need to do to compensate? So to compensate for their lack of natural excitement around visioning, Liz would say, all right, team, nobody is naturally excited about this. We're going to lock in 2 hours, drinks on me when we're done, or I bring in breakfast, or I bring in drinks for breakfast, whatever. But like, some kind of external motivation to say, we're smart, we're capable, let's do this. Or we're going to borrow a genius from somebody else's team. Okay, there's that third grade teacher who loves to wonder and invent. We're going to borrow her for a moment. Or if you're looking to hire, think about who you need to hire to balance out your team. Or when you're hiring, if you have them do the working genius assessment and you see where they might fit in your team, you can know, oh my gosh, we finally have somebody who has invention, which is great, but they're going to be the only person with invention. What do I need to do as a leader to make sure they feel supported and have other brainstorm partners, or we're not always going to them to burn out? That's really helpful in making sure that your staff is happy, feels supported, feels they have thought partners. Liz, do you want to share a little bit about how you've all used it at Truth Tree?
Yes.
In the hiring process.
Yes, I mentioned earlier that we kind of went down this rabbit hole with Miriam, and all of us took the assessment and we mapped all of us and had multiple kind of team conversations. I think it was really enlightening for each of us personally, but then to see it mapped out, I think was really fascinating. And we have also drank the Kool-Aid, and I have personally gotten really obsessed and have started using it in our hiring process. We have used it more around the geniuses we feel that are needed for that specific role. I do like the idea of thinking about hiring via geniuses that might be lacking or missing and bringing that in. But right now we've been focusing on, if we had to think about a role, what geniuses would that person need just innately to kind of bring to that position, which has been really interesting to think about and to look at our current team and who has what geniuses or not. And that's been really kind of a cool exercise for us just internally. I think in our hiring process, candidates that move pretty far along in the process will take the working genius assessment as one. We'll do like kind of a final interview where we kind of look at culture and skills and approach to, the working genius, getting their reflections on their own geniuses, which is really interesting. So we've woven it into our hiring process. And then I think ultimately the question also becomes, and we had some pretty interesting kind of back and forth conversations with Miriam, is the genius deciding who gets hired? Like, that's not really what we're looking for. It's more of a complement to our hiring process and really shaping kind of what the genius levels are, what the frustrations, what the competencies are, where they might need support if we were to bring them on, what other staff might be a great kind of partner peer for them to shore up different areas. So that's been interesting to kind of think about kind of a chicken and the egg paradigm of where does the working genius fit into the hiring process, and using that as a tool just to kind of shape the role and the team more fully.
Beautiful. And I think when we think about how we typically hire, like typically we create a job description. There's the job title that exists, right? Like director of marketing, principal. We write down a bunch of functions that we think do apply to this job. And then when people apply, like whether some people on this call may be there because you're looking to hire, and some people may be looking because you're looking to look. We won't tell if you are, but if you're ever looking to interview, also super helpful and practical. People are looking for like an industry, like I'm a marketing professional. We need somebody with marketing background. Do you actually need somebody with marketing background, or do you need somebody with invention to come up with lots of new ideas? And you need somebody else to implement them. Do you need somebody who is excited about your school, lives the values of your school, and then you figure out what their working geniuses are and you figure out like how to integrate them into your team. So for those of you who are listening and you're looking to hire, don't just look for pedigree and don't just look for resume. Start to get into like, what do you love about being at work? What energizes you? What are you going to love about this job? And is that a good match? So I want to go back to the altitude slide for a second, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about like, okay, what do we do with this? How does this apply in the, in the hiring context? So this is another helpful way of looking at the working geniuses, like what they are and how they show up. So, we've all heard like, oh, that's a 30,000 foot view conversation. Okay, like that's strategy. That's wonder is like very not tactical, very not realistic, but like people who like to ponder. Let's say we had a free plane for a day. Where might we go? Why might we go there? That's like a fun thing to think about, okay? Then the person with invention is like, let's go somewhere warm. Let's go to Hawaii or California or Tahiti. Like we could go anywhere. And then the people with discernment are thinking through how like, well, should we go here? Should we go there? Let's go to Southern California. They have many airports there. That's a good idea. That's where we should go. Okay. They've like sifted through choices. They've come up with reasonable answers. Then the people with galvanizing are like, amazing. We're going to LA. Let's go shopping. They're your hype team. Okay. The people with enablement are like, everyone make sure you're packed. This is your packing list. Like, let me know if you need help. All right. And then imagine the people with tenacity are like, we're getting into gate D18. All right. And then the person with invention comes in and says, I got it. Let's go to Hawaii. It's going to be so much better. Southern California had all the fires, not the best time to go there. Let's go there. And if you translate this conversation to a school conversation where that happens, you're doing something, you're going down a road, you're kind of all bought in, you've all done the work, and then somebody with invention comes in and is like, let's change it up. That's really turbulent and it's really frustrating. And it can lead you to say, I hate being at this job. Or if you're a manager, it can lead you to say, I hate working with this person. This person is really awful to work with. Or for me, my working geniuses are galvanizing and enablement. Okay. So all I want to do is excite people about things. So I would come into staff meetings, like really as an excitable puppy and be like, I got it. Like, let's bring in an ice cream truck every Friday. It's like, that's going to be so fun. That's what we should do. The kids will love it. And there's somebody who I used to work with who now in retrospect, I realize I wish we had this shared language, but for sure she has discernment and tenacity. And every time I would come in with all my like excitable energy, she would go, but how's that going to impact the schedule? How's it going to impact the budget? Have you thought that through? Right? With like all that like judgment. And then I have guilt of like, well, I haven't really thought through how it's going to impact the schedule, or like, I was just excited about it. I don't know. I just thought it was a good idea. Like, no, I guess I'm not so sophisticated. I guess I'm not so detail oriented. I guess I'm not so smart. And all my like excitableness. And then I come home and I complain to my husband and he has to deal with it. And then I end up leaving my job because I feel like it's a toxic environment. But the truth is, she was just approaching it with her discernment and her tenacity of being super detail oriented. And if we had this shared language, then I could come in with my like bundle of galvanizing energy, and she could say, instead of saying it's so annoying to work with Miriam is unsophisticated, etc., she could say, Miriam, I love that you're galvanizing around this. Can we discern it first?
Wow.
And in an even better world, I would have gone to her and said, hey, Susie, can you help me? I'm really excited about something. Can we discern it? Can we discern it together? Right? We talk it through. She loves to discern things. She says, yippee. We discern it together. We come up with a great idea. And then together, and then me and my like attractive galvanizing energy brings it to the admin team. And there's ice cream every Friday. Win, win, win.
Wow.
That's how this can be so helpful. So as managers, as you're looking to hire, don't just use the job description and ask those like same old questions of like, tell me about a struggle that you had and how you've overcome it. Why our school? Like, is that really helping you get to know how the person's going to function in the job? It is not. But if you reframe questions around hiring, it really can help you. Like have a better chance of them being successful at the job. Liz, have you reframed any of your hiring questions? What do those look like?
Well,
I have a few, but I want to hear from
we
you.
have added an entire interview that's just about Working Genius. Like that's what we've added. Yeah, we've added in a whole interview. And we've also identified competencies, like position competencies and cultural competencies. So we framed questions around that. But yes, literally they take the assessment and we have an entire interview talking about their findings, what they think, does this resonate? What does this look like in real life for you? So I think that's been very unique. I think it separates us and sets us apart from other agencies that might be hiring. And I think it's a nice opportunity for them to get independent feedback on themselves. And, I think most people like kind of doing those personality tests and kind of seeing like, what does the internet say about me? So I think that's kind of a nice, just, qualitative and quantitative kind of piece to offer. But yeah, we've used it twice. We're about to use it 2 more times. So we're fine tuning it as we also kind of roll it out and use it. But I think it's been super helpful to just not only see the results, but talk with the candidates about them too.
And by the way, how powerful for candidates to see this is a place where it's even the boss is saying, these are things I'm great at, these are things I'm not great at. It gives everyone permission. I have news for you. I haven't met all of you, but I promise you, there are things that you're better at, there are things that you struggle with. Because none of us is like excellent at everything. I said before, you're good at all of them. Like we're all successful professionals and we can fake it till we make it. That's okay. But like there are some things that we would love to do and some things that we struggle with, but still do excellently.
Yes.
And if you can do the things you love to do and do them excellently, like that's a win. So for any candidate to walk into an environment, because just as much as you're interviewing them, they're interviewing you for like, what's the culture here? What's the work life like? So to model that and say, oh, we use a system called the Working Genius model where we all know where we need to help each other or what we need to do to make it, to make sure that we have a great day at work. Like how powerful is that for a candidate? And Liz, I love what you said. It sets us apart from other places. Anyone who's interviewing with you has probably sent out 10 other resumes, but you are able to get the people who are really interested also in being honest and open. If it's too fluffy and fruity for people, then this is not the place for you.
Yep.
We're going to talk about it.
It's also been super fascinating to see how this works in real life. Like I've seen an example. So Trevor, our founder and CEO, is like Mr. Wonder, Mr. Galvanizer. And he's basically like bailing at tenacity. He's like, there's 7 people on our team that have tenacity. You guys go forth and prosper. So even that's been kind of exciting to see it roll out in real life. Like, how are we using our geniuses? And if tenacity is not your genius, like you probably could bow out and know that it's going to be handled. So that's been really exciting, I think, for us to see.
I love that. And also, please notice how Liz and Missy, and also Natasha, I see you, and I love what you did. If you're a school that works on Zoom, the takeaway is keeping your working geniuses like very visible, your geniuses and your frustrations actually very visible is helpful for everyone. So Liz and Missy have done this for a Zoom meeting. If you work online, like on Zooms, put your geniuses and your frustrations. So for Liz, you see how her name is Liz at Truth Tree. And then Liz's geniuses are invention and tenacity. So she loves coming up with ideas and she loves finishing things and like checking things off and being on top of things. And then Liz struggles with discernment and wonder. If you present Liz with a million ideas, it's really hard for her to pick one. And also Liz is not the person who's going to like dream big. She's great at coming up with ideas. But like what might it be like if maybe not so interested in it? Don't ask her to do it.
No, please don't.
Here's another great example. Like I struggle with invention and wonder. And I now realize when people say to me and managers say this all the time, why don't you come up with what your goals should be for next year? Why don't you take a stab at writing your own job description? That is like terrifying for me. I'm a galvanizer enabler. Give me anything and I'll be so happy to do it. So it's actually a waste of time and energy, and it doesn't make me feel good about myself. And like, you manager, you probably have wonder and invention, so you're dreaming about that, but like, why don't you come up with my job and I'll do it? It's great. That's better for everyone. It's just like a more honest conversation. And if you're in person, which I imagine most of you are, you can definitely, like, if everyone takes the Working Genius assessment, create a little table tent, bring it with you to meetings. I know that Trevor at Truth Tree actually saved the background on his computer is their team map.
Yes.
Which is amazing. Always keeping top of mind who should be getting which, delegate to whom, or how do I anticipate if somebody's going to have a problem? So Liz, you said, like, should the genius drive who we hire? Let's say you're interviewing somebody and you fall in love with them.
Yep.
But you know that they struggle with tenacity. But the job requires a lot of tenacity. Does that mean you shouldn't hire them?
We have not done that. We have not hired them because of that. But
Good.
It does make me stop and think about, okay, what would this person need to be successful? So I think it's more about systems, structure, support, being honest about what they need, and getting them what they need. Because if they're incredible and I've fallen in love with them, they would be great in the role. But this little area needs a little support that we can handle. That's how we...
Exactly. And also, actually, I'm going to point this out right now. Liz and Missy, right? So Missy reports to Liz. Missy has tenacity as a frustration, which I never would have known because she's so on top of things, right?
I know, right?
And Liz has tenacity as a genius. Right here, they can have an honest conversation. I'm putting them on the spot. They didn't know I was going to say this. But they can have an honest conversation at evaluation time or at hiring time to say, if Missy's job is to make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, she can say, look, to be honest with you, my greatest weakness is if this job requires a lot of tenacity, I struggle with that. But I know that you have it as a genius. I'm open to learning and growing. Can we put systems in place to make sure that I'm successful?
So good.
Bada bing. So instead of Missy, like, pretend, like, how many times does it happen where, like, you interview, you fall in love with somebody, or it's maybe happened to you, like, you fall in love with a job, you get in, and like the first month is fine, and then you start having hiccups, and then within 6 months you're like, this is not working, or this is not working, and everyone is like, what happened? We loved them when we interviewed them.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, what happened was your geniuses are not aligned with your work. It could be a million factors, but oftentimes, I worked with a team recently where, everyone loves this one guy. His name is Miles. He's great. He aligns culturally. He's a great fit, but he's really not able to do his job well. And his geniuses are wonder and galvanizing, which is the most rare combination, by the way. But he's a dreamer and an exciter, okay? And his job is to be the tech help desk guy.
No.
He has to process tickets and evaluate, prioritize them and evaluate who should deal with what. Like, no kidding. All he wants to do is like be an excitable puppy and like ask big picture questions, dream big, and get people excited about the ice cream trucks. He's not going to be successful in that role unless they make some major shifts. I think they should find him another role in the company. But And also, he doesn't have to question his self-worth. Like, why am I bad at this job? So it helps you forecast. It helps you anticipate as a team. If you're a team intact, it helps you anticipate where your hiccups might be or what you're really good at. And also helps you know who to hire or why somebody's not working. Okay, I want to do a quick activity. But before that, I want people to ask questions. If you have any questions or if you're feeling very critical about this, I want to hear it so that I can feed you some Kool-Aid.
I have 2 questions. Can you go to the team page again?
Yes. That map?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So just so I understand how the frustration side works. So because wonder and invention, there's no genius, but there's a higher number of frustration there. Does that mean that when they're in a meeting and someone would be doing their genius of wonder or doing their genius of invention, they're getting annoyed by it because it's a frustration for them, or it's just not their bag and they like that someone else is doing it and taking it off their plate? How
Great
does that
question.
frustration?
That's a great question. And sometimes the language of like the working genius, working frustration language is like a little clunky and a little bit of an obstacle. It doesn't necessarily frustrate them. It might, but it's something that does not give them joy and energy to do. Okay. So depending on the people in the room, like they might be thrilled for someone else to do it in a meeting. They might be like, oh, great, you do this, I'm not going to do it. Or they might say like, which also often happens is, what we've done in the past is great. Why are we spending time brainstorming? So it could lead to some negative energy. Or often, I think I said this before, but when people say like, do I really need to be in this meeting? That comes up a lot. And sometimes if you recognize, again, there are a million variables at stake, but if this is a brainstorming meeting and there are other people on your team who love wonder and invention and somebody else has the gala and like does not want to be there, it gives, remember we talked about like clarity around decisions as part of team health. It gives you permission as the leader to say, no, John, you don't have to be in this meeting because wonder and invention are your frustration anyway, and I know that you're busy. So it gives you like it gives you like shared language and shared understanding around how a leader makes decisions, and it's not arbitrary. And it's not, oh, the boss is favoring that person. But it gives everyone this shared language.
Thank you. That was very helpful. The second question I have is, this can certainly be helpful in providing an insight into how we are all working together and how we do our own work and things like that. But there's obviously other personalities or factors that might come to play. So for example, using that example of, do I have to be at this meeting? That could certainly be because of that being their frustration, but that could also be because of some other personality work of theirs. And how do you discern, or how do you factor that in? How much of this is the genius or frustration, and how much of this is that they're just a jerk? You know what I mean?
Well, the jerk assessment is $29.99. That would be amazing if you could actually figure that out. But you know, you're not wrong. There's, what I would say is back to the, like, what are the 5 dysfunctions of a team, or the 5 functions of a healthy team? Being able to have trust and conflict in a healthy, honest, and open way will lead you to be able to enter that dangerous conversation around, hey, you know, friend who hasn't been fully contributing to the team. Hey, it seems like, you know, you're better situated to be able to have an honest, difficult conversation when somebody is acting like a jerk, if you truly have trust on your team. And I think a lot of times people are, you know, behave unprofessionally when they're scared, when they're trying to hide things, when they're scared that it's going to be found out that they didn't do their job well, when they're trying to be overconfident and hide what they're not good at. So if we can all expose that and have honest and open conversation, I think you have a better shot of them being a good team player. But I mean, that's what I'll say. I've also encountered teams where, you know, I've been warned in advance, like, this person is really challenging. And in fact, like, they're incredibly challenging. But I still think it's because there's like a lack of honest trust.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And also I will say, all of this is like a muscle to be exercised all the time. It's like a whole new language that you just have to like keep working on it and chip away and hope for glimmers, and then just like hope to like love on that breakthrough and keep working towards it. Yeah. What other questions do you have? Anybody? Okay. I want to show you, I'm going to give you a 3-minute exercise to do. Oh no, Ariel, please go ahead.
Okay, so this is brilliant. Thank you. When you know that your team is lacking in one of these skills, because people can self-identify and self-express and they do the assessment, and you're hiring for something you don't have, I feel like I know from experience somehow that we're more susceptible to being convinced that the person who's interviewing has that strength that we're looking for, particularly when they know that's what we're looking for. Mm-hmm. And I think, to be fair, that's because people can have a go and should be strengths oriented when they're presenting themselves. But I wonder if we're all a bit susceptible to some like non-expert, you know, since we don't have that skill and we don't know what it feels like and we're not sure, so we can't really test it. Are we easily sort of deluded? And do we end up pegging someone based on the strengths that we're looking for, the way that currently, without this brilliant model, we peg someone based on the experience or the skills, whatever that we're looking for.
Or like, are we am I predisposed to hire somebody who's just like fun and awesome and like it'll be great without actually
right? Or we need a galvanizer. None of us is a galvanizer, and the person goes, "I'm totally a galvanizer," but like they're also totally looking for a job, and they could burn out.
So and I think too, like the point of like hiring somebody like you, like I have experienced that too, where gosh, I would love an IT person, an invention tenacity person, like a little mini Liz. Like, I think there's something in there too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay, great question. And that tees up what this activity is or would be. And this is a takeaway for you also to like engage in, take with your team. And this is this is like that muscle you can exercise 5 minutes a day, but just start to make a little bit of a habit of doing this. Think about the interview question. Well, two things. Number one, look at the job that you need, that executive assistant, that history teacher, whatever it is. Look at the job that you need and try to write down what would be the geniuses that would make this job successful. So I would say an executive assistant, almost all the executive assistants I have met and worked with are ETs, enablement and tenacity, because they need to be helpful. They need to get joy out of being helpful and getting things done. That's their job. So that's a very concrete example. I would then, you put out a, job description on Indeed, and then, or the head of school is like, I need an assistant. And like, I don't know. I don't know how this person seems lovely. I don't know. Right. So you put out a thing on Indeed, and then you get 1 million resumes and you choose the top 5 because somebody with discernment has helped you choose. I would say, I don't want to gloss over that, Ariel, in answer to your question and in general. The number one thing is identifying what your geniuses are and then looking to other people to help you. So if my competencies are discernment and tenacity, but I don't think I'm really naturally good at those. So when I have a question that I need to think through, I call my friend Charity, who has discernment and tenacity, and she's excellent at asking the questions that I should be asking, but I'm not naturally inclined to ask. So if you're preparing an interview, if you already have discernment, maybe you need to work on the warmth and galvanizing a little bit. Go to somebody who has that and say, hey, what would you do here to make somebody feel comfortable during this interview process? Because I know this is a great place to work, but like I keep scaring people off. Okay, go to other people to help you. And also you can ask interview questions. Don't tell them what the job requires, because then they'll just answer. But if you know that the job requires tenacity, ask an interview question to say, instead of saying, tell me about how you organize your day. Like, they're going to say, oh, I'm very organized. Like, that's what I do. But if you say to them, if you had a free day and I'm going to give you 3 options, what would you rather do? Would you rather sit and dream big about what could be? Wonder. Would you rather, lead a group of teens in like a color war cheer and like sing their hearts out? Galvanizing. Or would you rather I give you a bunch of lists for you to like organize and get in order? It's tenacity. Like, ask them a question like that. Like, what would you rather do among these 3 things? And they answer honestly. And now I know that I've got somebody who's really organized and could also be a chaperone on the field trip because they also have galvanizing. That's great. So I think that's an answer in like, how do I avoid confirmation bias, looking for people who are like me? Ask other people to help you. So that's okay. One assignment for you is rework your job description so that you know what you're looking for. Okay. Number 2, Liz, just 1 second. The other thing you can do is write down different interview questions to try to hit what you're looking for. So like, think about what you're looking for and then think about what might be a good interview question for, and also look to people in your school who have wonder and invention to come up with those interview questions, or you can email me. Liz says, what is the skill of collaborative team player work with a team member who wants to go solo in the context of Working Genius? Where does the skill of collaborative team player work with a team member who wants to go solo? But Liz, are you able to explain a little bit more? Where are you?
Sure.
Oh, there you are. Oh, hi.
Yeah, hi there. Hi there. Yeah, I'm just wondering, in a small team, and most schools, we're a PK to 8 school, private school, have small teams, and there are some shared responsibilities across market and admissions and such. And the skill sets that we've arrived at more accidentally than intentionally. Okay, and so we might have a team member who is very skilled in deep dive data analysis, is a Google maven, etc. And then others who have more soft skills or strategic skills or planning skills. And in a small team, I've always felt it was important to collaborate, not to the point of decision by committee, but collaborate rather than have a lot of solo agents. And so I'm just curious about how that dynamic fits within something I'm fascinated by, the working geniuses concept. Does that help a little?
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. And also, yeah, I mean, that's a fair question. Like, what if we're a super small team and everyone has to do a little bit of everything? Number one, I would say the fact that you're interested in collaboration and you see that as a value and an obvious way to approach things, I would wonder if you have galvanizing as your genius. And it's very obvious to you and effortless that like that's what we should do. It may not be as obvious to others. And also not everyone who's a galvanizer is an extrovert, by the way. Like that's also, you can be a very quiet galvanizer. It's just somebody who's like encouraging people, keep people moving forward. That's possible too. I'm an extroverted galvanizer, but I think sometimes, the situation is a function of like, we're a very small school, everyone has to do everything. You may still be able to use the working genius and delegate who does what. Like I requested extra lunch duties because I loved being with the kids. And that's a great example. Like any of you assigning duties, not all duties are created equal and not all your faculty and staff want to do the same things. It may be better for somebody to run the sub list behind the scene if they have discernment, then, like that's okay. And that again gives you shared language and a shared understanding around why decisions are made, which helps reinforce trust in the school leadership. So having like an understanding of what people love to do, what they're good at, will be helpful, even in a small team where there are 1 million tasks divided among 5 people. If you're going to do that many tasks, it might as well be something that you love to do. So, but that's a great question. Thanks for asking it. And I want to say, if others have questions, obviously, I love this stuff. I could talk about it all day. Please do be in touch with me. I imagine we'll share the slide deck. We share the slide deck, Liz?
Yes.
Okay. So like, here are some prompt questions to take back to work. This was going to be our breakout work. If you're watching this at home, like do this, practice this with your team, with your head of school, with anyone who you think will find it interesting. Here's just one more time what the working geniuses are. Here are the things. Try to use working genius in your vocabulary where you can. Try to notice it. Know your team's results, keep them visual if you have your team take it. Talk about the altitude of meetings. Some people can say, what altitude is this meeting? Are we just at a WI or are we trying to land a plane here? For clarity, use working genius to inform job descriptions and hiring needs. That's like the big takeaway. But most importantly, please keep in touch. I love helping people. And Liz is a GE in her competencies. She really likes helping people too, but don't make her do it all the time. But truly, I'm on LinkedIn. I post about this stuff fairly frequently. I'm on Instagram and I post. My work is also in enrollment strategy. So I like a lot of my stuff is about that too. But perhaps most importantly, for those of you who signed up for it, I also have a quick tips email that goes out every other week. I don't like to call it a newsletter because that is going to go to the graveyard of newsletters, but it's a quick tips, concrete newsletter that's called the At Work Tune-Up that helps you implement this. Like it's just one idea around organizational health to help you implement it. And I try to give you language to use with your team because I live and breathe this every day, but I recognize that not everybody does, but it might be helpful for you to have a tip on like how to use this and keep it alive. So please consider signing up for it. I think some of you did through the sign up. And I also have an enrollment email that's called Beyond the Tour to help the schools with newsletters, with enrollment strategy. But again, all that is free. My number one goal is to help people. And I really thank you again for coming today. And I hope to see you out there. Good luck with everything this season. If you're hiring or if you're recruiting, whatever is happening. Thank you for all you're doing for our kids, most importantly. So thank you all. Liz, anything else before we wrap?
Thank you. No, thank you, Miriam. This was incredible.
All right. Take care, everybody. I'll see you out there.
Bye, everybody.